My name is Clive from Clive's Art, and thank you very much for joining me in the studio today. You just caught me lighting my incense stick because I like a little bit of aromatherapy going on because it helps me relax. So I'm just going to finish lighting this and I will go through the colours that I'm going to be using today. Okay, so let's have a look at the colours that I'm going to actually be using in this lesson. We're going to start with the primaries. Now I've got a cadmium red. I quite like the cadmium red, and that is what I base my primaries on. And I've also got a cadmium yellow medium. Now you can use a lemon yellow or something similar. You don't have to have these particular colours, you just need a red and a yellow or a blue. But I like these particular colours, and this particular manufacturer is good. I'm going to change my primary blue. Now, you know I love ultramarine blue because it's got a bit of a violet tint to it. And it's a warm blue, and I quite like that. I don't like cold blues, so I tend to go for the ultramarine. But in this particular case, we're not going to be using that in this painting. I've actually selected a process cyan, so that's quite a neutral blue. That's what you'll find on the colour wheel, very similar anyway. But again, like I like to reiterate that I just personally like ultramarine blue. But we're going to use process cyan in this particular painting. They're my primaries, which I've always got in my colour selection, so if I need to change things up, warm them up, cool them down, etc., then that's the colours I use. Now the other thing is we need to look at our neutrals. Excuse me. And I'm going to be using a titanium white, and I've also got a zinc mix-in white as well. And this is quite transparent, so I mix this sometimes with the titanium, but I'm not going to overcomplicate stuff. If I need a brighter white, then it seems to be a brighter white to me. I don't know, I might be wrong, but it seems to work for me. Sometimes I'll mix some zinc white with my titanium white, a 50-50, and I get a nice bright white. Anyway, the other neutral I got is a Mars Black, obviously. I quite like that one because if you mix that with a blue, then you'll get a Payne's grey, so if you wanted a grey. So that's another neutral. And then I'm going to be looking at the actual colours then, outside those primaries and neutrals, that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to be using a lot of browns in this particular painting. Why? Because we're going to be doing this painting behind me. Now I've already put the sky and the clouds in place because we're not talking about that today. I'm going to be looking at mountains and rocks, and I'm going to be painting 3 different styles of rocks. Not form or shape, more on technique. So I'm going to be using 3 different techniques in this particular painting. Don't worry about the dragon, that's just there because I felt like I needed to draw something in there. I might put something in at a later stage, but at the moment I'm just going to concentrate on the techniques of painting rocks and mountains. So let's get back to paints. So besides some greys and, you know, rock colour, a lot of rocks can be greys, they can be red, they can be like a browny colour, so you've got a multitude of colours there. So for my browns, I'm going to particularly pick a Van Dyke brown, a burnt umber, a raw sienna, a burnt sienna, and a yellow ochre. Now as I said, I can change these either ways, warm or cool, or I can do values, or I can do shades, or I can do tints, and that's all to do with the primaries and the neutrals that I've just shown you. Now the other one particular colour I got is a diazon, I don't know how to pronounce that actually. It's a diazon purple. There you go. It's a purple. Anyway, let's not worry too much about that. Now as you can see, I've had a selection of paints, I've got a selection of manufacturers. I don't promote any particular manufacturer, although if there's somebody out there that wants me to promote their brand, please get in touch. and I shall do that for you. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Yes, so that's all the colours I'm going to be using. If I do decide to introduce another colour, then I will let you know as we proceed with the painting. So, brushes. I'm not going to go into brushes. I will tell you the brushes I'm going to be using as I use them, because I have found after doing all these YouTube videos that there's no point me telling you to get a brush selection together and then me changing my mind halfway through, because I don't use the same brushes over and over and over. I've got some favourites, we all have, but sometimes certain things call for different brushes, and I can't tell you what brushes, so I'll tell you as I'm painting. It's a lot easier than that. Like, let's get to the painting, and we'll go on to the next stage. Yes. Okay, so I've selected a small flat, and this is a 3/8. I don't know why they don't just call them 4s and 5s and 6s. It makes the life a lot easier. That's a 3/8 flat, or a square as it is out in America. And I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt umber. I think it's burnt umber. No, I apologise, it's Van Dyke Brown. I'm going to mix that with a bit of water. But before I do that, I want to introduce you to this. As you know, this is my water container, so I don't go glugging my brush. And I got to keep saying this because I still get in emails and things and saying about how much water you use. So I'm going to just say this very quickly during the next few lessons. So all I'm doing is getting a small amount of water into there, and I do mean a small amount. I don't know if you can see it moving. You should be able to, because it's got a HD camera, and that's all the moisture that I use during my painting. No more than that, and even then I take some off with a cloth. So I'll place that onto my wet palette. As you know, I work from a wet palette, and I shall be introducing to that in just 1 second. But before I do that, I'm going to have a little drink of tea. Ah, lovely. I like my tea. I'm not a very big coffee drinker, so anyway, let's get to the palette. Okay, so as you know, I've got a wet palette set up, and it's got some greaseproof paper on it. You might be wondering why that's a little bit runny. That's because when you put a lid on top of a wet palette, it tends to sweat. So always leave a little gap if you can. And anyway, enough of that. I got some Van Dyke Brown, which I'm just going to place onto my glass. I'm just putting a bit of moisture into that. And this is just plain water, because I'm not too worried about the 45% rule at this particular moment, because I just want to get a nice thin wash for some line work. And just take that off. There we go. And chuck that in the bin. So all I'm basically going to do is just very quickly, with a thin wash, just go around the pencil marks that I've already laid down. Very quickly, very rough. Now, I have sealed pencil work in before now, but I don't particularly want to do that in this case. Why? Well, because it's not detailed as such. These are just guidelines that I need. So that's the only reason I haven't sealed in the line work. And if I was doing a detailed painting, then obviously I would seal in the line work. How many times did I say line work there? I wonder. I don't know. That is not a competition, but if you want to comment on that one, you can. I might give a small lesson on waterfalls as well, because I was thinking of putting like a little waterfall feature type of thing there. And all this is basically is just a quick line work. Everything will be self-evident shortly. If you've painted with me before, you'll know that things have got a tendency of working out in the end. And painting is about enjoying the process. Not too worried about the dragon, but I am going to put an outcrop there. Painting is about enjoying the process, and you know, you can't make a mistake really and you can never fail, because the only way we can learn in life is to have some failures. So it's important that we just enjoy the process, and that's the end of that. So we need to wash our brush. When we wash our brush out in some water, we'll rub it into a little bit of soap, and again back into the water, back onto your cloth or your rag, back into some clean water, and then we know that's nice and clean, and then we place that back in our rag. And as I'm waiting for that to dry, I just want to go back to the palette. Now, a lot of artists put blobs of paint all the way around, and you know, all the colours they're going to be using. I personally don't do that. What you do is entirely up to you, it's personal preference. But what I tend to do is I set out my colours in the tube as I want them, and then I'll just put enough onto the palette that I'm going to be using. You know, so if I think I'm going to need more Van Dyke brown than raw sienna, say, then I'll put a little bit more out. But I'll always tend to use that and then add to it later on, so I'm not wasting so much paint. The other neat little trick is you can buy one of these pill boxes. These are boxes that you put your medication in, and you can take your tablets. Now, these are not 100% airtight, however, they will keep your paints separated, and they will keep your paints from drying too much. So you just need to give them a bit of a squirt with a mister bottle every so often. If you want to leave them on your wet palette, then you should be able to leave them in place with a lid on top, so they won't go runny like the white. If you're going to leave them for any length of time, I suggest you put some stretch wrap over them and store them in a cool place. Again, they should not dry out on you. I have used these on occasion when I'm doing craft fairs or shows, etc. So there's another little tip that can be used. So I think the canvas should be about dry now, so we'll get back to that. Okay, so we're going to put a ground now onto the canvas itself. We've mentioned grounds in previous episodes, so if you don't know what a ground is, go and check them out. There's links below. I'm going to use a raw sienna ground because I want the rocks to be a little bit warmer, and I'm going to use some of my medium mix thinning agent. I'm just going to give this a bit of a shake because it does settle a little bit on the bottom, and a bit like gesso actually. So there's another little tip for you. Always give your gesso a shake because it does tend to settle. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to mix up some ground, and then we're going to get and put some paint on the canvas. So as with the line wash, I'm just going to make a bit of a ground. I've done some medium mixed a little bit tiny water with that, and that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to get my raw sienna out, and I'm just going to thin that down a touch with a bit of my medium mix. Mix that in well. Now you can use a brush if you want to. That's what I'm using here, but you've got to be careful that it doesn't go up into the ferrule. It's inevitable it will do. Or you can use a palette knife. In this case I'm just going to be using the little brush just to mix this in. And I don't want this too thick, but again I don't want it runny just like I did the second ago with the Van Dyke brown. There we are, that should be okay. So I'm going to take that off the small brush, and I'm going to immediately wash this out now so it doesn't dry in the ferrule. So I've selected an inch. I think it's an inch, could be half inch. I don't know. Half inch brush, yes. One of them. That's so short. It's a flat or a square. Okay, so I'm just going to dip that into a little bit of water just to moisten the bristles. Yes. Why? Because acrylic paint will go and this will take all the moisture out of the paint. You don't want that, so moisten your brushes first. Going back into a little bit my medium mix, and I'm just going to wash that through just to get that paint exactly as I want it, and then I'm going to proceed to put that all over the canvas Try not to go onto your sky. That's about the only delicate bit we need to worry about doing this. You can see it's quite transparent. And for those of you who are going to ask me, transparent means you can see through it. Semi-transparent or semi-opaque means you can just about see through it. It's a bit more foggy. And opaque, well, that means that you can't see through it. We've covered that before, but I just thought I'd throw that in as I'm concentrating on this painting here. And you just wash that in. Get all, if you've got a little bit of contamination, just take it off with the edge of the brush. And if you're like me and you just run out of paint, you mix a little bit more up very quickly. I'm going to do that. I won't video it. I won't bore you. So I'll be back now. Okay. A little bit thicker, but that doesn't matter. As long as you can see roughly those lines you put on there. Now, gallery wrap canvases, you can paint around the edge, and I suggest you do that if you can. But because of this lesson, I'm not going to do that. I'll do that later on, although that does make things a little bit more difficult. But because I'm on time constraints, I'm not going to worry about the edge of the canvas at this particular moment in time. And you just carry on putting a liberal ground over the canvas. What this does, as I said in the past, and there's some subjects I will reiterate and go over and over and over, because inevitably, until as a beginner we get this and it becomes second nature, it is complicated to the beginner to understand what I'm doing. Now, this might be the 30th, 40th or 200th time you actually watch my videos, but these videos are designed for the beginner, so inevitably there's got to be somebody out there that have just clicked onto this. So I need to go over these particular processes for those people. And if you want to skip on, obviously, to the next episode, when I'll be doing the actual first section of the rock painting, then please do that. There should be a link. If you're watching this on the computer, then there should be a link above my head for that. If not, go down into the description part, and there's a time code there that will skip you through certain processes in my videos now, because I'm going to make a note of that. Also, there'll be a link in the prescription. I'm thinking of that pillbox. In the description for the next video anyway. So yeah, if you click on that and it doesn't work, it's because I haven't done the other one yet. But yeah, what I suggest you do is obviously click on that, and then you go into the next video process that I've done. So yeah, just carry on putting this ground onto the canvas. Doesn't really matter how you do it, you know, the brush strokes don't all have to be in one direction or nothing like that. Don't worry too much about it. As I said, all we're doing is eliminating the white, but we're also putting a ground in place which will give us that warmth, because this colour will show through on the next stage. There we go. There's a little bit of white showing there, so I'm going to take this mountain up just to cover that white where I've missed it with a blue. I'm only a human being. You can never make an accident. You can never have an accident in painting, just happy ones. That's what Bob Ross used to say. Religiously wash your brushes, as I've explained, and I'm going to call this particular lesson completed. This is part 1. So if you want to proceed to next part 2, then please click the link below, or what's around you somewhere. If you're on the computer, it'll automatically take you there. There's a notation there somewhere. And yeah, so we've done a fair bit today. I'm quite happy with that. On the next lesson now, we're going to be looking at doing the first section of the rocks, which is part of a mountain. But we'll be looking at mountains again in another lesson in this particular series. So I'm going to be showing you how to paint that section of the rock with just a paintbrush. Yes. And then we'll have a look at another process or another technique to paint the rest of it, which is cool. So you're getting 2 lots. And the reason I do that is because I want that part of the mountain to look, or rock face, to look further back than this part. So yeah, you always learn something new with Clive's art. I'm Clive from Clive's Art. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on part 2. So take care, have a nice day, and may your God go with you, and I'll see you shortly. Bye bye. Don't forget to give me that thumbs up. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Keep an eye out for my weekly updates. Join me on Facebook. They're always there, and they'll let you know what's coming up in that particular week. So may God go with you. I'm Clive from Clive's Art. Take care. Thank you very much. And don't forget to give me that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Bye bye.